What is going on, guys? Welcome to Test This Tech, and today we are checking out the Pupgsis D1, PGM D1. It's PGM D1. So, I did a Pupgsis review previously. Pupgsis video previously regarding to the mixer, and I wasn't really a fan of it. And strangely, it's funny because of these tariffs and stuff. Some of them are like $100, over $100. So please don't pay that much money for this brand. However, this was $20, and it is very much aesthetically pleasing. And I did like that it has a physical mute button, and it has a gain knob and a headphone knob, similar to this microphone, which is the Q1 mic that I got from Amazon a while ago. One of my favorite mics that I've gotten for the price of it. This was $30. So we're going to see if this is just as good, if not better, because I feel like this is probably the best, the best mic to compare it against is this Q1 mic. So this is a USB that I'm doing the recording here. So we're going to open this bad boy up first, see what we get. I literally just got this thing in. So I actually ordered two, but one of them is the box was damaged. So that was kind of lame. I might return it just based off of the sentiment that the box was damaged, especially if the mic sucks. But we'll see. This will be the means test for the first one. So big box for this mic, probably too big in my opinion. A lot of styrofoam. I mean, at least it does protect the mic, so I mean that's nice, even though the other box is just destroyed. Okay, so you do get a decent amount of things with it. Okay, so you get the USB-C, and you have a C to A adapter here, so that's very nice. And this actually comes with an XLR cable. Also a nice touch there, because the Aokio, while it was an XLR to USB, it only came with a USB cable. So it is nice when you have these companies that have, microphones like this. It's nice to have both cables, so you have both options. It comes with a cheap base that you put on a table. It's got a decent amount of weight, but it's a cheap base. It's not going to be like one you would find from like Guitar Center or Musician's Friend, which is owned by Guitar Center. And we have the mic. Wow, this is really light. This is really light. So this is a full plastic microphone. I think I don't know what you call it. The yoke mount, I think. That is a cheap metal, but this is really light. So let's see how it looks, because, if you're doing podcasting, if you're doing YouTube stuff, how it looks and how it sounds, and if it sounds decent and it looks really cool, you can get away with it. So that's the beauty of starting up YouTube stuff. If it's aesthetically pleasing and if it sounds better, which is even a better thing, you'll be all right. So let's open this up. That's what we got. And as you can see, I do like the aesthetics of just how it looks. It does look very clean. Okay. So it looks like you have a RGB button there. You got a mute button here. Now, the interesting thing about this mute button is that it's a rubber touch. So my $1 million question is, will this, if I press the mute button, will it catch in the recording? That is the $1 million question for me. So yeah, that is really the $1 million question for me. Obviously you have the microphone and the headphone. Curious to see. There's no real way to, let me see here. I don't know how you would tighten this, to be honest, because there's no, there's no washers to tighten this. There's nothing on the sides. I mean, when I move it a certain way, it does seem like it stays in place fairly well, but that is interesting. So what we're going to do, I'm going to mute the video here, attach this guy, and we're going to check out the USB-C, see how it sounds. Okay, so we got the Pupgsis PGM D1 microphone here. We have it attached. It is the USB mode. From my understanding, it is not muted, right? We have the gain's at 50%. And again, a very light microphone. So at least you can use a decent, a cheap boom arm basically, and it won't weigh down the boom arm. I don't recommend using a cheap boom arm, or at least have one that is a, fairly decent, not like the ones with the springs on it. Like, please avoid those. It'll catch everything in the recording. But anyway, this is the USB sound here. Curious to see how it sounds. I am going to mute my mic here to see if it catches the mute push in the recording in or out. So I'm going to mute it here. Talking. So that's the mute there. Curious to see how this sounds. I'm going to plug in my headphones and see how the headphone amp is, because if you remember from my last video, you're probably gonna say, Drill, I haven't even watched your last video. Watch that video of the mixer. The biggest issue I had was that the headphone monitoring was god awful. So let's see how this is. I'm gonna mute my line here so you don't have to hear all the sounds. Okay, so all right, so this is the sound of the mic once again. Hearing myself here. I will say that the monitoring is better. It is better than the mixer that I was reviewing from the video for the Pupgsis. So they fit, I think, so it's not perfect. There's a slight latency. Monitoring latency, but it's not nearly as bad as that mixer. That mixer was really awful. It almost had like an echoing chamber or some type of a reverb within it. So this does sound better for that regard. So I'll give it that. I'm going to mute, see if I hear anything when I press the mute button. So what I'm hearing is mainly through the boom arm. I don't know if I'm hearing anything through this specifically. Let me see if I can just press down on this. Okay, so I have to play it back to see if just pressing directly into it, if it's actually muting it or not. So I'm not 100% sure. Trying to move that so it don't make too much noise. But I mean, the form factor is good. I do have to see if how the XLR is. So I got to pull out the Maonocaster G1 Neo to see how the XLR is. I got to play this back to see how it sounds, because while the monitoring is solid on this, not too sure as far as how it actually sounds in particular. But regardless, I will go to the XLR of this, and then we'll go to the XLR and the Q1. We'll compare the two. I have the settings about the same. This gain is at 50%, and I'll listen to the audio, and then we'll conclude. All right, so now this is the XLR function of the microphone here. The gain is at about 50%, so just about the same here. A couple things to note as well is that the microphone capsule is at the very end, so plosives will be a thing, so you have to be really good with your microphone strategy. Yeah, I'm getting a healthy, seems like I'm getting a healthy sound here. I'm not getting it doesn't seem like I'm clipping or anything into that particular regard. And the monitoring sounds good through the Maonocaster G1 Neo. So just to know, this does a whole lot for what the cost of it is. All right, so let's switch over to the first mic I was using, the Q1 microphone. So let's switch over to that. We're gonna go to the XLR on that to compare it against this one. All right, so this is the Q1 microphone. I literally just plugged in the XLR into this, so it's going to be the same gain stage, the 50% here, XLR sound through the Maonocaster G1 Neo. So how does this sound in comparison to, the PGM D1, whatever they're calling it? And obviously, this is $20, or this is $30 when I purchased it. This is $30 when I purchased it. The PGM D1 is $20. Okay, so we have to put that all into perspective with the final review here. But sorry, it's hot out today. So I will switch to, I'm going to listen back to the recording, and then I'll do a final video kind of concluding my thoughts. All right, guys. So concluding my final thoughts here for the Pupgsis PGM D1. So the positives on this thing is, for one, it's $20. It's crazy what you can get for $20 today. And another thing that's surprising, even though I don't know how long this would last as far as for the sturdiness of the actual yoke mount, it's fairly stable. It's fairly stable. There's no way for me to adjust it on the inside, so that's the only biggest concern factor. So if it does loosen up over time, how am I supposed to fix it? Do I just throw this away at this point? So that is a plus. The sound isn't bad, to be honest with you. It sounds a little similar to this. I think this, so my Q1 microphone, I would say from a USB perspective, my Q1 microphone, and actually my XLR and my USB do sound a little better on this. By much? A little bit. Maybe 10%, 15% better. I feel like I'm getting a warmer low end on this microphone, and the treble isn't too spiky. It's fairly recessed. For this one, it's not too bad though. It's a smoother bass. It's not as heavy of bass on the Pupgsis D1M. You are hearing a little more of the treble for this one. Not in a way where it's going to sound kind of almost uncomfortable to listen to. So for example, the Behringer SL84C, which is supposed to be like a copy of like the Shure Beta, the Shure SM58 Beta, or I'm sorry, the 85 Beta A. I think that's what I'm trying to do. So basically, the Behringer version of the Shure SM58 Beta A, which is supposed to be a neodymium magnet. So it's going to have it's going to have more clear treble for that particular magnet, for that microphone in particular. But for the Behringer version, while it doesn't sound bad, that high end to me was a little too much for my voice. So for this one, it's not as bad as that. The treble isn't as spiked as high as that, but it's good. The biggest to me, and the XLR for this was fine. I still would say it's not going to be as good as this Q1. It's not bad. It does sound a lot better than the Toner. Toner has a microphone. I forget the specific code name on it, but it's the one with the gold trim around it. This sounds way better. This sounds way better. This microphone sounds way better than the Toner. This microphone sounds way better, in my opinion, than the F-Deuce SL40. Or the SL40X. I think this microphone sounds more natural, so it does sound better. The biggest issue on this mic is, to me, a missed opportunity is the mute button. They did a rubber membrane here, but the problem is that the plastic is so cheap. When you're pressing down on it, you're still hearing noise because of the plastic. You're still hearing noise. So while the muting is nice and it's not a physical plastic button you press down, you're still hearing noise when you're muting and when you're unmuting, because this is a light plastic microphone. So any type of vibration that you're doing before you mute or after you unmute, it's going to catch into the recording. So that's the biggest issue. I wish they went with a touch capacitive button, because that way there's more. You're less inclined to hear, less chances to hear anything going into the recording. So that's the issue there. For $20, I would get this. This isn't a terrible microphone. This is much better than their mixer. Their mixer is god awful. This is much better. This is much better. So for $20, it's really hard to say anything. I think you just have to manage your expectations when it comes to the bass and all that stuff. Throw that stuff away. It's garbage. Bring in your own boom arm. But yeah, I'm very impressed. For $20. It's hard to, if you just have $20, let me rephrase this. If you just have $20, this is a nice option. Where you can get something that looks pretty nice, right? And you wouldn't know it's $20 if it's pointed in this direction, right? You wouldn't really know. Someone who's not familiar with microphones wouldn't really know if this was a $20 microphone. And that's really the nice trick of the trade. when it comes to these mics. If you have $10 more, I would say go for the Q1 microphone or go for the Aokio MK9. To me, those are much better microphones. There's a touch capacitive mute button on the Aokio MK9 that I reviewed. $10 more, you're getting like 100% better physical quality, and you're getting more features as well. Something to note. But if you just have $20, or if you're in a pinch, you need to get a podcast in, you don't have a whole lot of budget for microphones, you want to just get both just to get one knocked out, decent sound, go for this, especially if you're starting new. If you're starting new, this is a great option as well. $20 doesn't break the bank, especially if it's a brand new podcast thing. Podcast, it's like you do 10 episodes and then like you just stop doing it. So, so I recommend it. Anyway, test this tech. I'll catch you guys next video. Thanks a lot.